Hello and welcome to our Mandalorian podcast. We are the Nerd BS crew. This week is our Mando week, and we got episode 6 and 7, or chapter 14 and 15 to talk about today. But I am, before we start, I'm joined by Tomas.
Hey, what's up?
And Kyle.
Mando.
Why did I phrase this as a question? I'm Alan, and the first thing I want to start off with is something we talked about last week, real quick. I begrudgingly, in my efforts to shut down Tomas's Mace Windu kick by saying that there's no way Samuel L. Jackson would be in this show. I was shut down pretty quick by these two buddies, but almost immediately, a couple of days later, we heard that Samuel L. Jackson will be reprising his role as I can't think of his name right now. Eye patch guy. Eye patch guy.
Nick Fury.
It's Nick Fury.
Nick Fury with the Marvel stuff, Marvel shows on Disney Plus. So that right there kind of shows if he's going to do those, there is a possibility. I'm still not saying it's going to be Mace Windu, and I'm still saying I would dislike if it was Mace Windu, but I'm just saying it's more possible than I originally thought. But anyways.
Fair enough.
That's funny.
But anyways, let's continue on with chapter 14. Anybody else want to say anything while they start before we dig deep into the tragedy?
Is that the name of it?
Yeah, it's the name of the episode.
Where does it say that? Because that's a big
It's
spoiler.
always at the beginning. Yeah, it says.
Okay, well, you know what, guys?
It cuts out.
Sometimes you have to do dishes when you watch these episodes, so you don't get to see every little detail. All right. Sorry.
Well, this one in particular took a while to get into because I usually write it, but I forgot when I first started watching it, and then I watched the second episode and wrote the title. And I realized I didn't go write the first one, so I went back to the first episode. It's about 4.5 to 5 minutes into the episode where it finally says the tragedy. So I will give you that it's kind of hidden at the beginning there. So if you don't catch it right at the beginning, you might miss it.
It's true. They do a huge recap kind of in the beginning of
That's
this
right.
one.
Yeah, I do remember that because I kind of I stopped watching the recap. It's like I've already seen it, and it definitely would have helped to watch I had to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I really enjoy the recaps. They're quick usually, but this wasn't just the recap. It was actually primarily the. Let's just start it. We're headed to Tython. Mando and Grogu, as they're going to Tython to find themselves those ruins. So we start with Mando and Grogu tossing a little metal ball back and forth. Well, once. Basically testing out the force powers, also testing out the fact that he has a name. So after that is when the title sequence comes in. But it's a pretty long sequence. I actually thought it dragged on a little too long, but it was, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, the first time I saw it, because I did watch the episode twice, the first time I saw it, I was kind of like you, Alan, where I thought it kind of dragged on. But then the second time I saw it, I really thought it was setting the pace well for Mando. Like, he's basically telling the child, when we meet this other Jedi, you got to go with him, and that's that because I can't train you and blah blah. And you almost begin to wonder, is the Mando saying this for him or for the child? Because it's kind of like it's almost setting the tone for how Mando is not wanting to separate from the child. It's a big thing.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that about Mando's side, but you can almost hear it in his voice. The acting's done so well that it's like, he's more in pain about it, and the kid's like the kid doesn't quite understand all of it, but there is a connection there.
Definitely,
I definitely get that. But we do hear our Dank Farrik again. This seems to be the theme of the season. Dank Farrik seems to be sprinkled everywhere, but we get ourselves landing on Tython. We see the ruins, but they can't land near the ruins because they are too small. So we get a little jetpack sequence with Grogu hanging on to Mando as they're flying there.
He goes into the temple the same way he leaves. If you notice that.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Yeah. But that is true.
Little
I thought it was cute. Yeah, it was a little. There's a lot of foreshadowing and a lot of weird things, but we'll get to that in a minute. My favorite quote is when he gets there is when of the episode is "This is the Seeing Stone. Are you seeing anything, or are you supposed? Are they supposed to see you?"
I
thought that was interesting.
I also love the part where he goes, "Does this look Jedi to you?" You know, like asking Grogu "Does this look Jedi to you?" She told you they were ruins, man.
Yeah.
I got a weird like flashback from like, have you been to like a court or a major building and you see that weird fountain structure where they have that giant ball floating in the water? Have you seen those?
Mhm.
That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah,
I got that vibe from it.
Yeah, minus the water. Yeah.
Yeah, I spun one at my college because it was like, you're gonna go influence the world, spin the globe.
That's cool.
I love my
here
college.
you are.
Here
you are.
Yeah.
In the world. So.
Yeah, you're talking about Mando. Who knew?
So we see Slave One in the distance showing up. We all know what that is.
That's all you get? Oh, you don't sound too enthused about it.
I mean,
I know you said you weren't really excited.
Boba Fett did a lot this episode, and the bit I saw, it was fun. But I mean, overall, we'll get to that later. So we get this, when he turns around, he sees this.
When the ship first comes flying in, the first time, of course, I just kind of watched the ship fly in, and I was like, huh, that's an interesting ship. And no, I didn't even recognize it. Did not even recognize it. And then Boba shows up, and I was like, how the heck? Oh, he was on the ship. Oh, and then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, there's Boba.
No, I it was exciting, but it wasn't super exciting. I guess more on your side, Alan, because you knew it was coming at some point.
Yeah, I was just kind of waiting for him to show up, and I was like, "Oh, there he is, finally, Mr. Fett." So he turns around and he sees he's gonna grab Grogu, but then he sees Grogu. The force energy starts shooting up, and this one is another one of those things that happens throughout the episode. Mando tries to go through the force thing 3 times throughout the episode, actually, and it was a little frustrating because it was like, all right. Once, I understand. Second, okay, give me another shot. Third time, haven't you kind of learned by now? I mean, did you figure it out?
Yeah, it's kind of that fool me once, shame on me.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, shame on you. You know, like.
I think there's a reason for it though. It's because these 2 episodes are the biggest Mando change, and we'll get into more of it in the next episode. But the biggest personality changes and like overall belief and faith and creed changes for Mando that I've seen throughout the show. And so this one was showing he's like, I don't care anymore. I'm blindly like just want to save this kid with everything I got. And like he's kind of lost rationale a little bit because he's just, I need to save this kid. This kid is everything to me. And I think that's what it was showing. Because I thought the same thing. Like, dude, it's not gonna like. It's only like getting stronger. If anything, stop it. But it just shows he's like, no, I'm going to keep trying until I get this kid. And then, and then he finally did turn around.
So you're pushing more emotion over thought. Okay, yeah, I get that.
Definitely.
I mean, I guess saying that then kind of clears up some things because, like, Boba makes him drop his jetpack.
Yeah, he does.
And it always me from that point to the end of the episode, why the frick didn't you just pick back up your jetpack? Like, I was so mad.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that later, but yeah, that's kind of annoying. But we'll get there and we could talk about it more. But we see Fett off, so he decides to go basically hunt down Fett to protect Grogu as Grogu meditates or does the Force thing. So he heads out, and he bumps into Fett. This is where kind of weird because
into him. He got shot at.
I thought that was really weird, this confrontation with him, because of the simple fact that Fett, like, he continues to say super vague. Like, he wants to be on his side, it sounds like, and he wants to make a fair trade. Basically, I won't hurt you. I just want my armor back. Seems very straight up. Why was he so vague? I mean, he basically says he's a Mandalorian later on. So why the vagueness of the whole thing? Like, I started questioning at this point, is he a Mandalorian? Because I'm like, well, maybe he's not. Maybe they decided to change the Fett legacy into being not Mandalorian and actually have obtained the armor in some other means. But then at the end of the episode, obviously, that's completely dumb.
I think it was because think of it this way: if you're part of a group like this, Alan, and I show up out of nowhere, you've never seen me before in your life, you've never met me before, right? And I show up to you and I say, hey, that armor was my father's. You're going to want some kind of proof. And when I can't prove it because it was in the armor that he could prove it.
Yeah, but all he had to say is, I'm Mandalorian, like my father before me, who was a foundling. I'm here to reclaim my armor. And then they go to his, because if they're together, they can go to his ship and he can, show him the thing on the armor. I mean, I feel like it was much easier than it was made.
Well, number one, story's got a story, and number two,
yeah.
How forced do we have to make the story? Is what I'm getting at.
Best excuse I can give to it is also, Fett is a former bounty hunter. He's also spent, I don't know how much of his life alone on Tatooine or with the Sand People. He's maybe not the most charismatic person, so he's not very good at being open with someone. Like, I don't know.
There's some good points. No, I mean, the other guy, why did he take the armor from the other dude, the first marshal? Like, I feel like that would have been easier.
Right now, there has been some speculation that because he has the Tusken Raider weapons, a Tusken Raider robe, after the Sarlacc thing, he may have been staying with Tusken Raiders for quite a while and decided to leave the armor behind for a while and then change his mind later. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move on, though.
I wanted to agree with you because.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
And just add to, I guess, Alan's side. I like this like point counterpoint thing. If it was that simple, why did he shoot at him to introduce himself?
Yes, that's another thing too.
Like, well, I'm going to shoot at you, but let's just make a fair deal, dude. Right after I shot at you to introduce myself.
Shot at you, and also have your technical son. Let's just go clear. We know that he has a relationship with Grogu. I'm going to point a gun at your son as well at the same time.
Let's say you're a notorious bounty hunter. I'm a so-called nobody. I don't know that you're necessarily willing to talk. I don't know that you're necessarily going to even give me the armor, which I really, really want. And I'm not walking away from this situation without the armor. So I am going to cover my bases by targeting the child. He might not know how close Mando's relationship is with the child, but he would know as a hunter is worth a lot to him. It forces a conversation that way. Why he shoots at him gets Mando's attention well enough. And I don't know, like I said, maybe as bounty hunter to bounty hunter, that's just how you say hello.
Well, all right, we'll just call him a bumbling buffoon, and we'll move on.
So next time I see you, I'm just gonna whack you in the kneecaps and be like, "Hey, dude."
Yeah.
Well,
good to see you.
I mean, I'm not part of the bounty hunter guild, and neither are you. I'm just saying.
Anyways,
hunter.
You don't know that.
Well, I know that I'm not a part of it.
All right. So we have we do get to see somebody from last season. Fennec Shand is with Fett. Apparently, we found out. What's up?
That name. Sorry, the name.
Yeah, the name's weird.
Are we sure it's Fennec?
It's Phoenix.
All right.
It does kind of link up to that. I didn't even think about that, but yes. But her name is Fennec. So this kind of brought back, because I didn't even think about this. In season 1, when we first see Fennec, she gets shot and she goes off screen. But when we see, before we leave her entirely, we do see a cloaked man coming up to help her. We come to find out that was actually Fett. And Fett saved her life, and now she has like a semi-life debt to Fett, which was interesting.
So is she android, or is she like?
She would be technically android, I guess, because she has a partial. I think android is half robot, half humans.
He's more machine than woman now.
Machine than man, yeah. I thought that was pretty. Woman. I didn't even know that Fett had such a, he was so good with cybernetics. I don't know. It sounded like the way she said, it sounded like he did it, but I'm gonna go with he maybe took her somewhere to do it.
That's what I thought.
I don't know. The way she talks about it, it really makes it sound like he was the one that did it.
Yeah, I get the vibe that Fett did it from the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they could do whatever they want with him. Go back to the Mace Windu theory. Like, this all just kind of muddles it up,
Yes.
More than it needs to with this character of, like, it's cool. I'm glad they brought him back, but, like, everything you guys are bringing up, there's stuff I didn't even think about, but the stuff that I noticed, too, is, like, do we really need the Fett in here? Because now it's just, like,
no.
We
really don't.
It's getting a little murky and confusing.
Yeah, we really don't, but let's keep going. So they make a standoff essentially. Fennec will take the gun off of the child, is what I've understood, and he will put his backpack down. So yeah, it's just really weird. But then we get the New Order showing up, which the majority of this episode is this combat between Fett, Fennec, and Mando with the stormtroopers, which was interesting, but I don't know. At some point, Fett eventually dips to go get his armor. You guys have any? How about this? Do you guys have any key moments during this confrontation of this episode?
I enjoy good gun shows and gun showdowns and stuff like that. I don't know if it's because it's fully automatic weapons versus, actual 6-shooters from Western movies and stuff like that. Well, I don't know. Black Hawk Down did it really well. I feel like this gun shootout, this fight out with the troopers and everyone else just really smacked you in the face with how incompetent stormtroopers are. Like, just really smacks you in the face with it.
It's really kind of a weird counterpoint, especially when you come to next episode. But we'll come to talk about that later. But for now, yes, it does kind of show that they are a little incompetent. They do the very.
They had the high ground. It's over, Anakin. They had the high ground.
True. Yeah.
Which actually did play a huge part because you're having to look down while shoot up at these sharpshooters
coming out of a ship, and
who are highly trained, who kill every day something. Yeah, and they're coming out of the ship, just like target practice for these guys. So I get that, but they were able to get off the fully automatic, heavy repeater, and that kind of slowed them down. And if it wasn't for Boba, like, being apparently the Terminator, then it looked like they were gonna they were getting gunned down at some point. So I mean, because they're just run of the mill. These are the base troopers.
Counterpoint, it really smacks you in the face with how absolutely terrible these guys are. When the other group had the high ground, but you outnumber the enemy. You also have better firepower than the enemy. You also have artillery. It should be a simple point of surround and pin with the artillery, and then close in the flanks. It's just, you see, like, that one commander, like, yell out, like, run up there, soldier. And the soldier's like, you can't get up there. There's too many men. And he goes, run up there, soldier. And the guy gets up and gets shot in the face. I mean, any competent commander would be like, oh, you're right. There is heavy fire coming from that direction. Maybe we should get that mortar over here instead of it just shooting in random directions that way.
I understand the stuff you're coming up with, Tomas, but I will say, I know I've brought this up far too many times, but definitely in Star Wars and definitely in Mandalorian, whenever you have the good guys versus the bad guys always look worse.
Yeah, I know.
They're not in battle every day, like
Yeah. This is also the remnants of the Empire, yeah.
This is like an underground empire that's rebuilding, so it's not like they've been in battle for years. So,
but anyways, I digress. It was an interesting fight. I did not have any huge issues to it.
I thought it was great.
They definitely really, like you just said with the Fett, they're really showing off Boba Fett. And when he gets his armor and comes back, we see that even more as they're really just kind of showing this. What they think people want, the badass Boba Fett. But I will say one thing about Fett, and I know I'm really hard on this character. It's really coming through in this episode. But is it just me, or did his armor feel weird? Did it look weird? It looked off, like it didn't fit right. Was that just me?
It looked like before he even put it on, you could see in his like Tusken Raider that is like, this dude gained some weight.
Even Jango is a little bit more bulkier than Boba is, because Boba is a very, very skinny guy, surprisingly.
I think that was what I just noticed. Was like, man, I honestly thought before he got the armor, I was like, is he even going to fit in the armor? Because I can see his belly. I see his belly popping out.
Yeah, I agree. It just seems a little off-putting. I also thought it was really nice of Mando to replace the missile. I mean, I didn't know he had time to go do that, but apparently he purchased the missile to put it back in the backpack for some reason.
Didn't they use it like a couple times?
Yeah, they've used it basically every time they've shown it.
I mean, Boba could have had one. He could have just been waiting to get it back.
I guess he could have had one.
All I have of my armor is this one missile.
That's a really good point. However, I think you're thinking too far into that point.
No, I am. I know. I just thought it was funny. That's why I didn't want to stay on it too long. But then we get one of the first major hits to the team. Bye Razor Crest. How'd you guys feel about this?
I did not see that coming.
My God.
I didn't either.
Oh,
I did catch me off guard.
Oh, that hurts so bad.
The memes were the best because they have just come out with a Razor Crest Lego set. So there was a meme that kept going around that somebody had the Razor Crest Lego set and they had just dumped it out and said done.
I'm glad I didn't see that because it's a huge spoiler.
Yes, it is, but it was hilarious.
I once had a beautiful Honda Accord that I had put a sound system in. I had lowered it. I had put lowering stress on it, rims. This thing was beauty. Spoiler, it got stolen from me. Then it got torched. And that feeling of going to because it had apparently been done out in this field. So I was shown to where my car was so I could collect what was that was all that was left. And when I saw that happen to Mando, I was like, oh, I feel for you. I know what that's like to just see your ride in ashes.
I did not. I mean, and there's your artillery. Like, it was a little late, but
jeez,
they came through at the end there.
Yeah, it was definitely upsetting.
Almost worse than the other loss. Like, really, it was right up there.
Yeah. Well, because that's like permanent. That thing's done. Like,
it ain't never coming back.
Yeah, we know what happens with Grogu, but yeah, we know at least he's safe-ish right now.
Man.
Yeah, that ship. Then they come back.
No, it was demolished. There was like nothing left. But anyways, so I thought this was cool. I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back. We got Dark Troopers confirmed as he calls out the Dark Troopers to go out to kidnap Grogu. So that was pretty cool. And this is where it bugged me, and I think we discussed this a little bit earlier, but I'll bring it back out real quick to unpack it. The whole setup is starting to become a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've watched too many of these episodes now. But this episode in particular, the starting setup was so heavy. As soon as he took off the jetpack, I knew something was going to happen where he would need that jetpack. And this is the instance where if he had his jetpack, he could have got there in time. Why didn't Boba Fett use his jetpack to get there? I don't know.
Was going after the ship.
Oh, you're right. Bumbling Boba Fett is what I'd like to call him. But he
haters gonna hate, man.
But another thing, speaking about Fett, another thing, he talks about this isn't a spice dream. Later on is the Ember. So is Fett also a junkie? That's what I just want to know. Is he also heavy into spice?
Dude, he hung out at Jabba's palace for months.
It's true. Yes. There's actually a new theory. I didn't know until recently that people are starting to claim that Boba Fett was drunk that day, which is why he was so easy to defeat.
Yeah, well, okay. So now to go to the other end of the haters, like people all up on Boba's junk need to relax a little bit. All right, like let's not jump to conclusions.
Well, let's hold on. Let's hold on. All right, maybe Boba in the past made some mistakes. Okay, Boba is like your hero that has hit rock bottom and realizes that he has a second chance at redemption and goes out and takes it. It's the underdog story we all love.
But anyways, the spice dream thing, I thought that was just funny. I threw them there for no reason. But not too long after that, he sees the Empire, and then he comes back down, and they talk a bit. We find out that Jango is a foundling, so that makes, I'm assuming, foundling the same thing as Mando was. Mando is also a foundling, and Jango fought in the Civil War, and so basically Boba Fett's a Mando as well, a Mandalorian as well. So that just kind of helps that.
Yeah, and to your guys' point earlier, like, why didn't he just pull out that genealogy from the get-go?
He couldn't have because it was on his armor, so he needed
you're right.
to show it to him.
He could have said it though, and then he could have proved it.
Yeah, but who would have believed it? That's just my thing. Is like I don't think I would believe him. I'd be like, yeah,
but why would someone randomly come ask for the armor?
I don't know. Why would someone randomly want to pretend to be?
That's what I'm saying. Is that nobody knows he has the armor except for the other guy. So obviously, this person knows he has it. So how would he know he has it unless he had more skills?
I don't know. Maybe the frog talked,
or that marshal.
So we we kind of end the episode as Mando goes and talks to Kara, who's now a marshal of the New Republic. I thought that thing was something else, but it sounds like it's a badge. It looks like a badge now with the stripes. Grogu roughs up the troopers. It's kind of cool, but then he wears himself out. We end with Moff Gideon. Yeah, it was fun looking. We end with Moff Gideon talking to Grogu, and then ending up telling, while showing him the Darksaber, and then telling Dr. Pershins that we have our donor. I thought when they put the little shackles on Grogu, it looked very cute, but in a depressing way. Also, I would with Moff Gideon, Ginasario Esposito. Again, I feel like he steals the show. As always, he's a great actor. I just want to get his name out there again because we forgot it last time.
He's definitely the best actor that's not wearing a helmet. Because to be fair to the Mando, you can't show any emotion with that suit on. Like you can't even the body language is probably hard to do. And so, but he does it well.
A lot of actors typically don't like to wear full masks because it hurts for advertising.
Yeah.
their face makes them money, and so to hide their
brand.
face, yeah. So I give props.
Yeah, even in the MCU, it's actually very common. That's why the majority of them will have their mask off quite a bit, even when it doesn't make sense. Just because, I mean, they're doing better now where they keep the masks on, but for the most part, they take them off periodically just to kind of show who they are.
Or like in Iron Man's case, they would take you behind the mask and show Downey's face in the suit.
He's probably one of the most well-known actors in the show. I think probably the biggest name overall so far, and he definitely steals the show. And he's in there for such a little bit of time, but that's all he needs. Why don't we do our closing remarks? I'm just gonna call one of you out, do your closing remarks and your ratings, and then we'll move on to chapter 15. So we'll start with, I don't remember who I ended off last week, but I'm gonna start with Kyle this week. Closing remarks on chapter 14, and what would you rate it?
I'll keep this one short. I think this episode should have been called The Empire Strikes Back, and my rating would be a 6.
Solid. Tomas, why don't you go ahead and give me your same thing?
All right. By the way, shout out to Pedro Pascal. Who's the name of the Mando that I could not remember.
He'll appreciate that. He listens to this.
Yeah, I know. So I just want to make sure that he hears it. Like I said about the fight with the stormtroopers, I felt kind of got a little silly. I
love that part.
I was not really invested too much in this episode. I, like you, Alan, kind of saw stuff coming. Like when you dropped the jetpack, I was like, "Oh my god, something's gonna happen with that." So like, I kind of read the episode as it was coming, and I mean, I didn't even recognize Boba's ship. So Boba being a drop for me in the episode was not like either. So I honestly have to give this about 4. So it's probably my lowest one so far.
Dang. When I watched it the second time, and I came up with my score, I talked to my son not too long after that about the reasonings for my score. And then I actually lowered it with some of his opinions. I came in today thinking that I was going to be the rock bottom compared to what we've done in the past. But even with there's some heavy, important things that happen this episode. His ships get destroyed. Grogu gets kidnapped. There's some very important things. But overall, when you compare it to other episodes, I completely agree with Kyle. I gave it a 6 as well. I was going to give it a 7, but like I said, once I started listing out all my problems with it, I realized that was far too high. I would easily say this is probably the least impactful, like least fun episodes to watch out of the entire season so far. And so I would, like I said, I agree with Kyle. 6 out of 10 is my goal, and I was actually surprised that you went so low as 4.
And especially it gets that low for me because of seeing it the second time. Because when I was watching that stormtrooper fight the second time, I was just like, "Wow, this is really kind of comical."
He said, "No, he didn't."
Yeah, I enjoyed the stormtrooper fight. I can see where you're coming from. There was a lot of decent stuff in this episode, but I think that pretty much sums it up. It was decent.
Mm-hmm. But I do have a couple of questions real quick.
Okay, before we move on.
Yeah. So at the end, though, we see Baby Yoda, like you said, using his power and kind of punishing those stormtroopers. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But he gets tired after the end of that. And that's not the first time we've seen him get tired after expending his power. I don't remember other Jedi getting tired after using their powers. Like,
it's very common actually for Force users to get exhausted after they use the Force, especially when they're not as skilled or practiced. You see that even when Yoda fights the Emperor in Revenge of the Sith, you see Yoda become exhausted as he's trying to run away, and he saves the rest of his strength to escape. It's not just this scene; it's been around. It's quite a not this fast, But this is also Grogu, who we've seen barely uses the Force, and now who's using it fairly extremely.
He's no Jedi.
It's true, he's not.
Well, I've seen other Jedi get fatigued from using their power, but I've never seen one actually get like conked out sleepy. Like,
well, he's a child. He's a young person. Kyle has a son now, and I know when my son was young, they'll overexert themselves to the point where they are physically exhausted, and they will either collapse or just become extremely angry.
I've seen my kid literally just where he's at, just lay down on the ground and go to sleep. It's like I can't anymore. And you have to take in the fact he's been kidnapped, so he's probably doing this every time he wakes up, and they keep stunning him, which exerts you. And he just did that whole send out the beacon thing, and they're not letting him like replenish his energy on the Empire ship. So,
well, I was just also curious if it had something to do with were they lowering? Because remember how they said like they did the M count with the whole transference of blood. So does that lower his amount of midichlorians does he have? Does every time they do that to him, does he get weaker?
As far as I know, no. Draining blood probably would make him weaker, just because if you've ever, got a blood transfusion or even donated blood, that actually physically exerts you.
Yeah, but I'm just curious if so do midichlorians repopulate themselves? Do they
I don't know. I haven't really looked into that too deeply, to be completely honest. I don't think it works that way, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I'm out of my depth.
You got to talk to you're out of your element, Donnie. You got to talk to Qui-Gon about that, all right? And we know where he is.
Yeah. And last thing is, you guys were saying all this stuff about Fett, and I kind of agree with you. I was really shocked with the way Fett was like, yeah, but I made an agreement to you that I would only get my armor if the kid was safe. So now I'll help you. I thought that was really weird.
Yeah, that was the one thing I wrote down that why my rating was so low. Like all of a sudden he's like a man of honor. Like what?
Yeah, yeah, it was odd to me. Of course, I haven't read anything about Boba, so I don't know who he was before his spice addiction and stuff. But it could have been a great man. But anyways, one thing about Fett is I do actually kind of like that Fett has teamed up with the Mando, and here's why: is because you now have. And I know you guys might not like this, but you have a very common trope of Star Wars where you have a master and a Padawan. You have Boba Fett, who's an extremely experienced bounty hunter, and Mando. And you have Mando, who is not so experienced. And now Mando can learn how to make all those cool little toys.
Yeah, maybe they can head to the Spy Spine after this and just get completely loaded.
No,
all right,
that's gonna teach him. Cut me off. I'll cut you off.
Season 2, Episode 7, Chapter 15, The Believer. All right, so we're gonna start off with he talks to Kara last episode, and we hear that he's trying to get a hold of Migs Mayfield. Links up perfectly with Kara. He is serving 50 years on a Carthan chop fields, and so we get there with Kara, and we get Mando to where he's walking in this junk field, and we see these robotic legs. Okay, I know I'm setting this up, and the reason I'm setting this up is because I know Kyle played this. I don't know if Tomas played this, but did you just get heavy Shadows of the Empire vibes from that planet, that robot?
I didn't, but now that you because I haven't played that in like
it's been a while,
2 decades, dude. Like, so, now that you say it though, it is bringing it all back.
Yeah, there's a boss battle in that game where you fight IG-88. And that whole scene, there wasn't like prisoners there or anything, but it was like a junkyard. You're fighting a robot.
They're gonna connect Shadows of the we're gonna have Dash Ren. Okay, if they're gonna bring anyone in, bring in Dash Rendar.
Yeah. At least Dash Rendar didn't die, as far as we know. At least he didn't die, as far as we know.
Oh, all I can see now is that Robot Chicken episode with Dash Rendar.
Yeah. Dash Rendar, yeah. As being taken by Kara. Apparently, she can do that when you're a person in that whatever position she's in.
She did say she had to pull a lot of strings to do it.
Marshall. It's true. You did. She did say that. So she kind of did that off screen, I guess.
Yeah.
I saw
glad we didn't
one
see
thing. Yeah, it would have been really boring and diplomatic. And we all love that from the prequels.
Exactly.
But anyways, I did see it. I thought I saw a werewolf guy. I couldn't pause it enough. But I know we were talking about him a little bit, and maybe that's why I wanted to see him. But there was a prisoner as they're leaving. Like I said, I couldn't pause it to get a clear picture of the guy because it kind of blurred him. But he looks like a werewolf guy, and I didn't look at the race's name. But like I said, we talked about him from Mos Eisley's Cantina, who was taken out. All right, so this is where we get our first look at Fett with his cleaned up armor. We get to see he's got matte colors for some reason. It fits better finally than it did before. The colors look a little darker than they were but previously. He seems to have his rifle back. It's a little altered and more fancier and newer, but it seems to be the same style. What'd you guys think of his appearance?
I was actually going to say, and we didn't talk about this when we saw Bo-Katan, but I actually liked that Fett had his armor painted because I loved how in Star Wars Rebels, Sabine points out that the Mandalorians had been an artistic race. They had used color, and she, of course, used it like crazy, but it's true. The Night Owls of Bo-Katan have blue in their armor, and in contrast to Mando, I like the color better. I kind of seeing the two, I kind of am like, oh, I wish Mando would paint his. Like,
I think it represents where he's at though, because he's still neutral. Even up until this point, he's still kind of neutral in where his love and emotions lie. He's all for the creed still, and like I said earlier, that's changing a lot in these 2 episodes. It's changed dramatically, and I like that they just stick with that costume as long as you can, because there's so many. After watching Iron Man change every 5 seconds in the MCU, it's like, okay, let's just stick with something for a while. Let it become like a really important thing when you actually change a costume. And I like the paint job he got. If he went, like Grand Theft Auto style, where you drive into the parking garage or whatever, and it just paints your car. Like, I would like a little explanation.
Well, those were always his colors, weren't they? They were just always faded.
Yeah, not the colors. Just like, did they sand it down on the way over, or?
Oh,
yeah, we should have got a good scene. This should have been a good 45-minute episode. We should have got a nice scene, a split between Kara getting all the recommended paperwork out of the way to get Migs, and also Fett getting his armor dry cleaned.
It's all right, fans. Mando, I like Fett in here, so I'm the only one.
No, I'm with you on this one. I wish we would have had more Fett.
I first didn't like it, but I went back and watched the second time. I liked it better. It still has the dent in the helm. One thing I liked about Fett in the original is this going conspiracy is that he seemed to wear a lot of his scars on his sleeve. Kind of basically showed with his armor that he's seen some crap, and you don't want to mess with him because he's already taken care of everybody else who has. That was kind of my idea. Now his armor is much cleaner, but he's more well known. He does still have the dent in the helmet. One thing I did take, and I know you said a lot of color, which is from Rebels. Jango Fett, his armor was actually very silver, kind of like Mando, with just a little bit of blue. But he also kept his armor very pristine. One thing Boba Fett didn't do was keep his armor pristine. So maybe this is him having some reflection, realizing where his armor came from and starting to take care of it. I went a little too deep. But anyways.
Wow. that's good.
Yeah, you could be right about this idea that he just gave up his armor for a while. Maybe he just felt like he really didn't earn it or deserve it anymore.
And I think you're onto something, Tomas, about like he's definitely like the wise character in the crew right now, which is weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of going that way.
Yeah, the character is slowly growing on me. Last episode wasn't very big of a help, but even though he doesn't do a lot in this episode, I actually think that's for the better because I think it does.
Would you say he's growing on you? I messed that up. Okay, never mind.
All right. So anyway, so they're gonna head to Morak, to the secret Imperial hub, miners hub.
I like that you have to do this. You have to go to the little calm, and you has to be an enemy base. You know, it has to be the worst possible circumstances. I really love this episode, but it's just like it's so convenient that you have to do all these little things. You can't just hijack. You can't hack into the system.
It is something about the Star Wars technology that is so. Some things, galaxy is not even far enough. Not even doesn't matter.
It's like they can space travel, but a lot of their stuff is still, they still just farm moisture.
I think part of the fact is because the original lore is like made back in the 80s, so it kind of retains this old school feel, which I think is part of its charm.
Yeah, well, I agree.
Slave 1. So the interior I want to talk about just for a minute. It seems rather large inside compared to the exterior. This is not uncommon for Star Wars, mind you, because the same thing can be easily said about the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon is always way too big inside than the exterior looks. People have even done like scientific measurements.
Oh my gosh!
They're just like, there's no way it would all fit in there.
Well, I mean, they have it at Disneyland. They have it at Disneyland now, so you could like go with your tape measure, and then you can go do
and see if it was all accurate.
Yeah, I mean, once they open up again, of course.
Of course. I don't know. It's just a small thing. All right. So we talk about that this mine is mining rhydonium, another made up metal in the galaxy far, far away. It is highly volatile and explosive. We get to the planet. I loved the look of this planet. After seeing planet after planet of desert and dry and
like
bland.
The dead forest with Ahsoka.
Forest, Tatooine, even the last planet was just like, but we could finally get a green, lush, beautiful planet. And I was just immediately in love with this planet that they were on, and I didn't want to leave. I don't know about how you guys thought about that. Maybe I got too deep on that, but I really love that planet.
What I really liked was the whole ride with Mando and the sharpshooter.
I watch these every time we do one of these casts. I watch the episodes back to back together. I don't know if you guys watch them separately and then watch them again, but I watch them back to back. And the mood of this episode, especially since all of us did not like the last episode, so it wasn't just me, because I thought maybe it was like, okay, I thought the same thing you said, Alan, like it's probably just me, but we all gave that last episode a low point, and then the mood of that, even just from that, you're like, oh, there's life again. There's literally life again. I think that's what it's getting onto. Yeah, and so
that's a good point.
It was, the mood was just like so much happier and positive, and like, okay, we're gonna go do something. And so I liked it. I'm glad you brought that up.
And so we get to the we're doing the old wear their uniforms trick that we've seen in Star Wars countless times now, where they decide to take uniforms. Mando's going to go in with Migs, and they're going to drive the thing. But the problem is Mando's wearing his Mandalorian armor, so they have to swap gear with a couple of drivers to drive the juggernauts. I think is what they're called.
It is very different though in this instance, because it actually means something for the Mando.
Yeah,
this is why I love the Mandalorian, because it actually means something. You're not just like, oh, using that trick because it's fun and it works. This actually is a part of the Mandalorian lore, that he is like, I am choosing this kid over my entire life belief system,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I also found myself kind of in the same boat as Migs when he said, to the Mando, well, what is it? Can you not show your face, or can you not take off your helmet? Because the two are very different things, and they are.
That's a good point. And he doesn't answer it, right?
No, he doesn't.
Before we move on, the best line in the at least this season, I think, was Boba Fett's line when they're like, "Well, I can't go because I'm wanted," and he says, "Let's just say they might recognize my face."
That is true.
His face is in the registry.
Yeah, for sure.
So I love that little line. It was so subtle. None of the crew got it. They're just like, "Oh, okay, well, he's out."
Yeah.
I laughed out loud. I was like, "That was good. That was a good one."
Yeah. So we drive along, and we see some. First of all, we see a village of people that are on the same planet. And this is where Migs talks about that. That was probably my favorite conversation of the episode as well, Tomas, where he basically kind of doesn't really poop all over his ideas or where he comes from, but at the same time kind of does. He's basically he understands them. He's not, like I said, he's not trying to bring him down. He's basically saying, "I understand you. We're on the same page. We have our values, but at the same time, we're willing to do what we need to do to survive, whether that changes that or not."
Yeah, my understanding of it was when someone challenges what you believe and what you do and who you are, what do I do this for? What am I doing this for? And I think that's exactly what he did to Mando. Was he challenged Mando's creed in a situation where Mando really had no excuse or no way to argue it, and it made Mando think, and it was more effective than even what Bo-Katan could have done when she was working with him, being like, "No, I'm a Mandalorian. Listen to me." You know.
Actually, I actually got to say a different vibe from that conversation. Migs was saying a lot of very valid points, but I actually, I mean, we're interpreting a man who was in a helmet and completely silent,
Yeah.
different ways. But I'm actually going along more the long times of, I don't have to listen to you. You're an outlaw. You're just here to do what I need to do to get done.
That's a
So
good
he's
point.
ignoring him. That's what I got from
Yeah, well, and I mean, this is maybe, to my opinion, one of the most pivotal, important episodes of the Mandalorian character so far, because like both of what you guys said is spot on. Is like great. I'm really glad you guys dug into that, because it was like a really cool conversation that the Mandalorian is so vulnerable. He would never before, we have to assume before the show started, he would never take off his armor, let alone change into the enemy's armor. And so he's thinking, I think he's thinking as well, and he probably is just like, I'm trying to shut this guy out, like you said, Alan, because I'm not who I thought I was. I'm in the stormtrooper outfit right now.
Yeah, it's a very cool that we can have such different ideas of what happened. But one of the things, and I love this episode.
Well, mine's right though. Just so you know, my ideas.
Okay, all right. Dead on, Kyle.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But when Biggs takes off his helmet, that was it was foreshadowing for later, and I kind of knew what was going to happen with it. It was a little bit on the nose, and it kind of just turned back to the jetpack thing.
Tomas said earlier, the show's got a show.
Yeah, show's got a show, I guess. So that, but this one didn't bug me as much because there was so much good, it completely outweighed that.
It would have been hard to have a scene with both of them in helmet. I think that would have worked as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think Bill Burr playing Migs is a very expressive person, and he's a very loud and expressive actor or comedian. And I think him having his helmet off,
man, he fit in so much better. It was a little out of place in the first season, but it worked fine. And then this season was like, wow, he did so much better, and it just worked really well.
I didn't think about this character. I never even thought I wanted to know more about them. I never even cared last season. But then this episode comes up, and now all of a sudden I'm rooting for Migs. I'm like, this guy, this is a good guy. I want to see him more. This wasn't enough. I want him more in the show. But anyways, get a little excited. So we move on to we can take the helmet off and we do some more driving. We see the juggernauts that are destroyed on the side. We kind of get an idea of the dangers involved, and then we see two more jugs in the distance blow up because of quote unquote pirates. So this is where I come, and I want to bring this out. We're on an alien planet. We're working quote unquote for the Empire right now as spies. We're spies, but we're working for them. These people are attacking us. They're not trying to steal anything. They're not doing this for monetary gain. Are these rebels that want the Imperials off the planet?
Pirates usually take what they can. They're plunderers. Yeah, like you were saying, Alan, they weren't taking anything. They weren't trying to get away with anything. They were just trying to destroy whatever progress the Imperials were making. That I wanted to also ask you, Alan, do you know what race they were? Because I don't think I'd seen them before.
Maybe something was happening with my enjoyment of this episode, but I didn't even look it up. They look familiar, but I don't recognize them off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing them before, so I was just curious.
I'd have to go watch it again, but maybe there's one on Jabba's ship.
Yeah, it's probably there's a lot of random races. Yeah,
so it could be, but like to add to what you guys were saying about this, it just adds to the conflict that the Mando is in now, because he thought he was always on at least doing what he knew was right up until this point. And Bill Burr even mentions it. He's like, whoever thought you'd be excited to see stormtroopers, when they finally get to the bridge. And it's like, it's again, the Mando is more vulnerable than he's ever been in this position, and he's debating, what I'm doing, is this the right thing to do? Because he's blinded with emotion for this kid that, like we've already, it's clear that he's the father, the adopted father of this child now, and he's gonna go 1990s Mel Gibson and get whatever do whatever he has to do to get this kid back. And it's very conflicting, because now he's fighting the rebels who he used to fight alongside with.
Yeah, and that's very valid points. I'm just going to go over some quick things that I thought of during the combat, because we're not going to go through the whole combat, but I did like that he ran out of ammo. Thought that was really interesting. I don't think that ever happens in Star Wars.
That was great.
Imperial junk, dude. Imperial junk.
I really like that he was wearing the plasteel, and he was trying to use it like Beskar. They showed him like trying to use it like the strong armor that Beskar is, and pieces breaking, and him having issues like fighting because he's not used to it. The Juggernaut, how do you drive that thing? That thing had like a boat like stick, but then also had pedals. Like what?
Very carefully.
At first I thought it was like a boat, and then later on he has like a brake pedal, and you can see a gas pedal next to it. I was like, what is this thing?
Yeah, and at one point he speeds up by pushing up on this lever, like in a ship.
Yeah.
And then exactly. You just said there's a gas pedal though. So what was that? Unless is that your clutch? Was that like a clutch and a brake?
Oh no. It was really weird. I thought it was funny.
We're going to use Tomas's quote whenever we can't figure it out. The show's got a show.
Show's got a show.
And it's fun to show both, right? Revving up with the lever, or braking with the brake pedal. And I don't know, maybe, we'll just move on.
It was wacky, but then we get the Stormtroopers to the rescue. And this is what I was talking about last episode or last chapter, where these troopers are great shots when they're fighting bad guys. They seem to, if you watch them shoot, it's not a barrage of bullets. Each bullet is hitting them. If you watch, laser, each laser is hitting them. Like, they're quick.
But these are better trained troopers too. Like, these are there was the shore troopers, and there was another. I can't remember the other ones, but the shore troopers from Rogue One. Those are like better trained, and they're not often thrown into just mindless combat. which is
I didn't know they were better trained. But
Well, they were pretty shabby up against 2 snipers. I mean,
well, but that's true.
Those are snipers, though. They have no way to defend against them.
Well, get your own. You don't have snipers in that whole base? You don't have one sniper?
I guess they did it. Maybe they didn't plan for it.
No, the only one was Bill Burr's character.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
he left.
He left.
Yeah,
It really hurt the Empire. It really hurt the Empire.
He was the last. He was the last Imperial sharpshooter we had.
I will I will discredit myself because if Moff Gideon is really dead set on getting Baby Yoda, why would he send in the shoddy troopers and not?
It's true.
Like why would you go? So that kind of I just thought of it and was like that kind of puts a hole in my theory.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's what he had at the ship.
Yeah, maybe Moff Gideon just has what he has, and this isn't a big deal.
He used troopers as a distraction. So
we still haven't seen. We didn't see Thrawn yet.
No.
So
all right. So another thing is when he gets off at the base, and this goes back to a show's got a show. Everybody else has a helmet on, but Migs leaves his helmet in the ship or the car or Juggernaut. Yeah. Why? And I just wrote next to it, why ? Plot. And that's
why didn't he just go back and get it? Why didn't Mandalorian swap helmets? Anyways,
show's got a show.
Right. That's true.
I did see there was one more in the armor that did not have a helmet on in the background. I was watching for it. There was one more.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, there's the reason.
But okay, and to also I'll do the counterpart just for devil's advocate. Bill Burr's character, what's his name? Migs? I'm gonna
Migs. Yeah, Migs Mayfield.
Migs, not Biggs. That's how I remember.
Biggs.
Yeah, that's how I remember the stuff. I gotta come up with catchphrases. So Migs, not Biggs, goes and Mando are in the middle of the enemy territory, right? This is like this whole scene gave me the like World War II movie vibes where you have to infiltrate the Nazi base undercover, and it's like so they're already revved up from not dying on the Juggernaut, and then they're in the base. Like stuff's happening so fast. They're being cheered on. There's no time to stop and think of what to do next. And plus, there's a whole long history with Migs, not Biggs, being in the Empire, being part of the Empire, and so he's just, and he tries to bail. He immediately tries to bail.
He knows what can happen.
He knows
what can happen if they screw up. That's a very valid point. That maybe it was just an adrenaline rush and he didn't have time to think about it. So I'll give you that. That's fine. That would be a good explanation. So we have the terminal in the calf, and like Kyle kind of said, we see Migs. He recognizes Valm Hess, who was Miggs's officer, superior officer. There we go. At the time, so he served under him, and so he's worried that he'll notice him. He's not sure if he'll notice him because he knows him, but vice versa may not be. So he's afraid to go in. And then Mando, this is where we get to see the big scene. I think he took his helmet off once last season, right?
Yeah.
But this is but not for this long though. This is like a long.
This helmet reveals what I wrote was so much more important than the last one was, because the first season you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like we see his face, and I don't even remember why he did it. Again, it was to help the cause.
He was eating at that village. She told him that he could take off his mask and he could stay here. And the kid was playing with
it
was at the end.
It was later. It was at the end. It was like the last episode.
He took it off in that episode.
No, they told him to, but he didn't.
Yeah, but he didn't. I remember it was very specific at the end because they built it up pretty heavily.
Yeah, they built it up, and it was kind of a letdown in the first season, especially compared to this, because this one he just does it, and again, it's just out of that raw emotion for him and this kid that it's becoming all about the kid, and his love is becoming much more apparent than his creed. Like he's completely given up the creed at this point. He's broken every rule, and Bill Burr's basically, giving the exposition of it when he's, in question, when he's questioning him about it, like, what is it, your helmet or is it the armor or both or what is it? And at this point, it doesn't even matter. Once we get to this point, it doesn't matter because all that matters is that I get the kid back. And to me, this was so pivotal. Like, it was huge, and you could finally see the emotion on the guy's face too.
Yeah. Well, to me, one of the big questions that I had was, though, why does the scanner recognize his face? Because
I put that in my notes. He takes off his helmet, he face scans it, and it works. I heard something we don't know, and we're gonna find out, I bet, in the future.
So yeah, I mean, the only thing I could think of when I saw it was, wait, so he's obviously worked for the Empire and had to take off his mask before.
Well, like we've talked before, Boba Fett worked for the Empire. The Mandalorians took jobs. So it is very possible that he's taken other jobs from the First Order and potentially with his age from the Empire at the time. Because he did take a job.
For the Guild. He worked for the Guild before. Yeah, but I didn't know the Guild automatically connected into the Empire.
No. They didn't connect in the Empire, but if they've worked with the Empire and maybe there was some sort of connection in that sense, maybe his face is on record for some reason. Did you have something, Kyle?
He worked with the Empire, and it could be like, hey, you got to have access to certain things. I honestly didn't think it was that important.
Yeah, it may not be, but it did call out, like Tomas said, like it did register in my brain. I wrote it down because I was like, that's weird. Why is that working?
Did they say, though, that the scanner only recognizes Imperials, right? Like, that's why he had to use the scan. That's why Migs had to use the scanner.
That's why Migs was there, yes. Was to use the scanner.
I don't think Mando even knew if it was going to work. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Or he knew that he'd have to take off his helmet to do it.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. It's possible. It could mean nothing. It could be something later. But either way, Valm Hess interrupts. Who this guy is like, whoever played this guy, I should have looked up his name. He did a really good job of playing the creepy Imperial. Because there's in the original trilogy, there was a lot of creepy Imperial leaders that gave you the heebie-jeebies a little bit. But this guy, just the one-on-one conversations, he gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, having to listen to him, I was like, this is like listening to a serial killer. It's got to be what it sounds like. Like, serial killers talk like that.
It was very creepy. I honestly thought it was the actor that played Rorschach from the Watchmen movie, but I don't think it's him because he had a very distinct face.
I think so, but it
gave me the same vibes though, because he also played Freddy Krueger, that same actor. Yeah. So it's like
he could have done it. Yeah, I don't think it was him, but he could have done it definitely.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Maybe it is.
That whole scene, I got the Inglourious Basterds vibe from that scene in the bar. Now they didn't have like a half an hour to set up that huge tension that the Inglourious Basterds movies did, because that scene in Inglourious Basterds is like, you feel it. You're like, you're starting to sweat a little bit, and I got that vibe in this whole scene. All three actors did really well, I thought. In it was one of the best scenes in the show so far.
Yeah, it's definitely great scene, especially with not a whole lot of setup.
I felt like it was exactly the way a shootout should progress. Like, he shot the officer, bam, and they look around. Did someone see me? Oh yeah, saw me. Bam. Wait, there's someone else. Bam, 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 bam. It was just it just snowballed. Like, it just snowballed.
Yeah, before we move to that, I want to talk about this a little bit. So they have a little conversation. I really like the tension in this scene, like you just said, was really good. We get the toast to Operation Cinder, which I thought was interesting, which I never even heard of. But just the expression and the way he talks about Bill Burr did a really good job at expressing his disdain for how the Imperials did that operation, and you can feel the emotion building in him and in his voice as he's speaking it. And even when Valm Hess responds back and saying his twisted version of it, and then ending with Toast to the Empire. You could just, I think, I've never seen Bill Burr do a lot of acting, and maybe I haven't looked into it. I've only seen him in comedies and stuff. But in this particular scene, you could see the man just his the crushingness that he's getting from his former officer, just reminiscing about this event that they both have completely different outlooks on. So it just built up to that shot, and usually in a situation like that, when you get that shot, you start thinking, at least I do, start thinking, well, that was a stupid idea. Why'd you do that? You could have got up there an easy way if you just avoided that. But that was one of the few times where it was done well, to the point where I actually he had to take care of this sick individual, even if it was at the risk of his life. But that's just me. And maybe I again took it way deep, but I really like that.
Oh, you're spot on with that, man. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, anger can really make someone respond. And maybe it's just because I have always had a shorter fuse than other people, but I think when someone gets angry, myself especially, like when you get angry, you're not really so much thinking about the consequences. You just want the instant gratification. Like, I'm gonna hurt you, and that's gonna make me feel good.
Yeah. And that's always not done well. But yeah, that's what I was saying. It was done well here.
It is. And man, again, like the Mandalorian as a character in this scene is the most vulnerable we've ever seen him, especially after this whole season where like, all right, he can survive, being eaten by a dragon. He can block lightsabers with his armor. It's like this guy was invincible up until this point where he didn't have the armor, like you said. He had no weapons. And now even his face is revealed, which is just like a core belief system about him. And he's pretty much speechless to the whole thing, and Bill Burr saves his butt just by talking so much.
Brown eyes.
Yeah, brown eyes. And they set it up. That the officer isn't going to let him go, though. He's like, you're not dismissed, and let's have a drink. And it's that whole thing, like trying to get information before he arrests them or whatever he's going to do, and then they just shoot him instead.
Yeah,
which is very satisfying.
Yeah, and I do like how Mick says, and it was kind of there. He just says, "Never saw your face," like he just leaves it at that.
Yeah.
I really like that. It showed some respect from Migs to the Mando. Like just some real quick respect before they had to book it.
Well, the Mando did save them from being blown up by the rebels, so
yeah,
he kind of owed them.
Yeah, exactly. They escape. We see it's a really cool escape scene with them climbing out the window and having sniper support, and then you have Fett showing up. And then we get this next scene when they jump on the ship. And again, Migs, like I'm saying, Migs, this entire episode is just holding it together for me. The Mando stuff's cool too, but I think this character we don't get to see very often is just doing so much as he pulls the sniper rifle and shoots one of the things to blow up the thing. And his line, when he looks at Mando, "We all need to sleep at night." And that's it. I was like, oh, I was just crushed. I loved it. I don't know about you guys.
It was a good line for a good moment. Like it really, and since it brought back what he had said earlier, it had brought something full circle, which brings closure. So,
yeah. Does anybody want to say anything about that? The next thing I was going to talk about, Slave One. What's up, Kyle?
Yeah. Again, we've brought this up a couple times. It reminded me of Family Guy, where it's like, wait, they just have an open exhaust port that it's uncovered. Like, well, we should probably take care of that. And then they're just, the Empire's so cheap. That was the reason. He's like, we're not gonna cover up our weaknesses because that would cost money. So let's just leave our giant exposed ventilation or whatever that was to just.
It was a canister. I think, and I didn't notice it, but I think when they were pulling the thing off and putting the thermal detonator on, I think that hatch may have been left open, and they just never closed it before they put it away. and so it was at the top when they were like about to unload. That's what I got. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I could be wrong too. It just I had that. That's what I thought of.
But I get it. Yeah, there's always that weak spot. I wasn't. This was set up a little bit better than even the OT.
That's true.
But at the same time, it is always like a Star Wars trope to have that one weak spot that you just gotta shoot and everything blows up.
One shot. Yeah.
But just a little quick, that bomb that Slave One dropped out, that was so cool.
Word, yes.
One of the few things from Attack of the Clones that was like really cool was when the Slave One was dropping those bombs in the space when he was trying to get Obi-Wan off his trail, which I thought was a really cool callback.
I have in my notes that bomb.
Yeah,
and that's
really
that's the exact moment that I kind of pulled a Joker, and I was just like, where does he get all these toys? Like that's
like I said, that is actually something that's standard on the Slave One because they have used it in Attack of the Clones. But it's still really cool.
Yeah, even my wife, she walked in during that part, and shout out to my wife, she's awesome. But she's like, "Oh, that was really cool," and it was like, "Yeah, you have no idea."
Attack of the Clones is not a great movie, but there are some highlights, and that is definitely one of them. Is those bombs? They have a really cool sound effect.
As soon as I saw it pop out, I was like, "Oh yeah," and then the sound was just like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, exactly. Same here. I was like, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't clicking until it happened. And I was like, oh crap. That was amazing. Satisfying.
I think we say it every episode, but the guys creating the show, they care and they do their research, and it's great.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get a touching scene at the end where Cara talks to Mando, and they basically say that Migs, Mayfield perished during the mission, and they're basically having a heavy hints like perished during the mission. It's so upsetting, and I guess he won't make it back to. It took him so long to take the hit, but at the same time, I loved it because he wasn't going to run away. He was going to turn himself back in. They gave him the flag to go, but he was still like, "You're not gonna like come after me, right? I'm not getting this wrong before I leave, and you just chase me and arrest me for more years." But I don't know. I thought it was great. This was really touching, and it gave me hope to see him again. Yeah, at the end we get Mando threatened to Gideon, which was nice. It made us excited for more.
I think it was nice. It was, dude. That was oh my god! When I heard him say that to to Gideon, I was like, "Ooh, Daddy Mando is mad now. You up, man?" Just
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was just too on a Meg's high during this episode.
I just loved the way he turned those words on him. Just like, you have something that I want. You have no idea how valuable that is to me.
Yeah. The quote I wrote down was, "He means more to me than you will ever know."
Yeah.
Which was, I got it. I don't know. Maybe it didn't hit me as hard as it hit you. It didn't give me goosebumps or anything, but it was. I mean, I guess I just knew where it was going, and I wasn't really that. I don't know what's wrong with me, but that was not the highlight of the episode.
Mando went through this whole like identity crisis thing. All within one episode. It could have been easily done within 2 or 3 episodes and drawn it out, but they do well to keep it within one episode. And now that he's back, and he's like, I know who I am now, and he has his armor back on, and he's like, I have my weapons, I got my team. I'm gonna start calling the shots, because I know what I want. And I kind of tuned out too, like you did, Alan. Was like, oh, I thought the episode was over. However, we did see fear in the face of Moff Gideon, I think, for the first time, like ever.
Maybe a little bit. Like maybe he wasn't
a little bit.
It. Yeah.
He's like, oh shoot, like because he, Mando's always been on the defense with him. He's never been on the offensive against him. So now it's like, okay, all right, I see you, Mando.
And also, for all Gideon knew, Mando had no idea he was still alive. But obviously, this shows Gideon that, oh well, he is still alive. He knows I'm alive, and he knows who took the baby.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, very good point. Really good point, actually. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, I guess it didn't hit me as hard, but I mean, valid scene. I have no issues with it. But anyways, we're coming to the end, and I think it's time for our ratings and closing remarks. So I started out with Kyle, and I'm on chapter 14, and so let's go over to Tomas this one to start off our ratings. What did you think? Closing remarks for chapter 15, The Believer, and also your rating, Tomas.
I enjoyed the episode. Like, I've enjoyed them all. Even the previous one that I rated low, I still enjoyed it. This one, though, I felt definitely started to pull me back in from the kind of disinterest of the last episode. So it gets a little bit better marks for that. I really loved the conversation between Migs and Mando. And I loved the whole cafeteria shootout and everything like that. I miss seeing Baby Yoda and him doing stuff and stuff like that. So I would say overall, just because it did kind of feel like a filler episode where they're just trying to find where the bad guy is and it's leading up to something bigger, I'd give it about an 8. So
Okay. All right. Solid remarks and a solid rating. Kyle, same thing. What did you think?
Yeah, as you were saying that about the previous episode, Tomas, I totally felt the same way of like, oh man, what a rebound. And like I said, I watched them back to back, so it was just like the lowest point of the season to the highest point. But I think what happened in the previous episode is that none of us even came close to what we predicted. You know, we were talking about different Jedis coming out, and there's no Jedi. No Jedi came out. Instead, we got Boba Fett. You know, and I think that just threw me for a loop in the previous episode. But anyways, going to this episode, I think this is the best episode of the season thus far because of the philosophical discussion and the finally showing vulnerability in Mando because of so much. He just was like fighting Jedi with lightsabers. I was like, okay, that's cool. But now we see him on the other end of the spectrum, just like, I'm going to do what it takes, whether or not I have armor or weapons. So I'm giving this episode a 10. I think this is the best episode so far.
I did not know that we would be such in sync, Kyle, because I also give this one a 10.
Hey.
I love this episode. I thought this episode was amazing, if you can't tell by my hypeness while I was discussing it this entire time. Migs Mayfield is easily became one of my favorite, if not my favorite, side character in the Mandalorian series. And I really want to see more of him, and I hope we see more of him. I think this episode, and I go against Tomas a little bit, I think this episode shows that Mandalorian can continue even without Grogu. Even though I like Grogu just fine, he's a great character for the show, but I think at some point it may be wise to move on and do something else with the series, more closer to Mandalorian related. And I think this is a step in that direction, and it really shows that we can and hold ourselves together with it. So overall, I loved this episode. It's easily one of the best. I don't know if it's the best, but I actually, you know what? For just a straight Mandalorian episode, yeah, it's probably my favorite episode this season, just for the simple fact it was paced really well. There was a lot of good character building, and a solid move along with the story as well. I mean, even the premiere episode can't even say all that, I don't think. Best episode of the season, I think I'll say it. Uh, so yeah. Oh man, that was hot. Okay, so
I wouldn't go that far just because I feel like it was a little predictable. We knew that Mando and this guy were going to end up going in. We knew and for that it just I feel like the other episodes that I gave 10s to, I didn't really expect what was going to happen.
Unless I'm wrong, I haven't been writing them down, but I think you both gave a 10 to the Ahsoka episode.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I do. I believe so. I gave 1 to that because, like I said, for me, the whole drop about Grogu and the Force Academy and being hidden was like, what? Like, you know.
So what we learned is that Tomas is a Grogu fan, and Alan and I are more of a Mando fan. That's all.
It's just I like Jedis. You guys like Mandos.
Yeah, I think what's great about this episode, though, going about with your point, Tomas. I think what's great about this episode is the fact that it can be a solid episode without a huge drop, because there was no huge drop in this episode. There's nothing really major discovered. It was a slow progress to the location, but that was about it. But yet so much happened in it that mattered, even though it wasn't like a huge major part of the story at the same time. I think that gives it some.
So I agree with you, Alan, but the drop was him taking off his helmet. Like, to me, that was the biggest part of the season, of him saying, I'm not associating with this anymore because of my love for the kid. And before, when he did it, I don't remember what it was for, but it was anticlimactic. And this one, to me, I honestly I thought they were gonna like have to go get a helmet or something. He just straight up did it. He's like, I'm doing this.
That's a valid point. But yeah, because I know earlier you said, well, Tomas didn't like this one because he's a Grogu fan, and you and me like this one more because we're Mando fans. I think you're mistaken. I think you're a Mando fan, and I'm a Migs Mayfield fan.
That's true.
But anyways, yeah, I agree. The stuff with the Brown Eyes was actually really cool as well and deep. But I think, in my personal opinion, in the cafeteria, even though that scene was so good with Mando, I would say that Migs Mayfield stole the show in that scene with his story and everything like that. Overall,
well, I mean, it was all.
Well, it was still impactful. It was important, and yes, I agree that it was all of them. If he wasn't as impactful, I don't think the scene would have been as strong.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you take out any of those guys, and you say the same thing.
Exactly.
I don't know if he stole the show, but that was his moment, and he did it well.
Mm-hmm. Going from a character I couldn't really care less about and actually kind of forgot about, to a character I deeply care about now and want to see more of. Does he deserve his own show? I don't think so. Please don't, Disney.
Yeah, but don't go that far.
He definitely deserves cameos on maybe multiple shows. I would like to see that. That'd be cool. He kind of moves his way around, like, just kind of stumbling himself into different important moments.
You know what I thought of too? It's such a shame that they already did the last 3 movies, because they if they had done this first, and maybe it's a result of those movies, being disliked the way they are, that this show is what it is. But if they had done this the same way, like, you could have thrown so much cool stuff into the sequel movies, into the whole Rey thing, and I just thought of it. I was like, oh, well, I thought of it for a moment. I was like, what are you going to do? So,
yeah. There is, I keep seeing things, and they all could be fake, but I keep seeing weird side things that, because of how well these side projects, or whatever you want to call them, are doing, project, because there's only one really. Oh, I guess you have the Clone Wars that finished out as well. That there is like weird talk about possibly vetoing the sequel trilogy,
and take out characters and add characters and change the music like they did with the original trilogy to make them what they should have. I'm being sarcastic, but
I should have caught that. But yes, if they're going to do it right. I will end on the fact that we are, I guess a couple days ago, it was the 2-year anniversary of The Last Jedi, which people were talking about it more again, and I know you both hated that movie.
It's the very last one, episode 9.
Yeah, episode 9, which was the last
tragedy.
It's a tragedy of a movie.
Yeah, Rise of Skywalker was a tragedy. The Last Jedi came out about 2 years ago. That's the one that was like a 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you both dislike it. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it's still a solid film. It has problems.
Yeah, each of them on their own.
Each of them have problems.
It's fantastic. Each of them on their own are solid movies. Fantastic movies.
I would disagree about Rise of Skywalker.
Whoa.
Okay, no. Here's what I'm getting at. You can't deny that the visual effects, whether you liked all the flips or not, were done really well. It was like the best thing I've ever seen in a movie. Of like, man, we've come a long way with effects.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Rise?
Rise of the Skywalker.
I think Episode 1 had better effects than Rise of the Skywalkers in terms of the jet fight, the dog fights, in terms of the actual Jedi fights. The graphics were far superior.
Dog fight in about Episode 1, but I'm gonna go ahead and back off of that.
Dog fight.
And this is not this. Anyway.
Yeah, you opened a can of worms. This is Alan's fault.
Oh boy,
this is Alan's fault.
I just wanted to give a count that The Last Jedi is 2 years old, and it was a couple days ago. That's all I wanted to say. Decent film. Maybe we need to have a cast and discuss different Star Wars movies. I'd be down with that, but let's wait till Mando's over.
Yeah,
and
please.
This is our Mando cast. Yeah, this is our Mando cast.
I just want to do this for my closing remark. This is my prediction. Gideon is Palpatine's like Padawan now.
Oh my god. All right.
Go ahead. And goodbye.
All right, Kyle, go ahead.
Best episode ever. And thank you guys for listening.
All right. Yeah, best episode. I agree. Same as well. And you can find us at Nerd BS. Check out our podcast. We're going to try to do one next week. We should have a double dose coming up of both Mandalorian and shortly after Nerd BS. If you want to get in our Discord or get contact with us, feel free to contact us on Twitter at nerd_BS or my Twitter at ScadMatrix. We also have an email, nerdbackstory@gmail.com. Any of those places, you contact me, you can join our Discord and be a part of the Discord. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Cut me off. I'll cut you off.